Rachel Zegler then inexplicably continued to post herself in a empty.
Wait, Rachel Ziggler then odd-kept to upload herself in an empty. Rachel Ziegler's starring role in Disney's live action Snow White was meant to be a career-defining moment, a fusion of rising star power and beloved heritage, a bold step into the modern fairytale era. Instead, what was meant to be a crown jewel in Disney's redo lineup has spiraled into one of its most chaotic and contentious projects. The movie has become a lightning rod for cultural debate, internet speculation, and media scrutiny. And now it's the scene of a high-profile standoff between Zgler and Jack Black that may have resulted in a personal, emotional spiral behind the scenes. Though no footage exists and neither party has openly confirmed the details, whispers swirled that Jack Black confronted Zgler about how she'd been handling the growing pushback to Snow White. The standoff, as the story goes, came after months of public criticism, internal tension, and studio panic. It was a simmering point moment, one that supposedly left Zgler shaken and emotionally overwhelmed. The backdrop to this rumored exchange is a redo that has been divisive from the outset. Long before Jack Black's alleged involvement, fans were already uneasy. The announcement of dramatic story changes, shifts in tone, and an overtly modern women first message didn't sit well with many longtime Disney loyalists, famously played by the insufferable girl boss narcissist who's just clinical. Rather than igniting excitement, each new reveal seemed to spark new waves of skepticism. The nostalgic heart of Snow White, its romance, its appeal, its innocence was said to be replaced with a tone more aligned with cultural commentary than timeless storytelling. Zgler herself became the center of storm. Her public comments about the movie's themes, her dismissal of the prince persona as irrelevant, and her insistence that Snow White wasn't about love all became fodder for commentators. She posted a photo of herself sitting alone in a theater during the movie's premiere weekend, which commentators turned into a symbol of what they saw as hubris and detachment from audience sentiment. At the same time, other films like the Minecraft movie were soaring at the box office, fueling the perception that Disney's strategy had not only failed, but had missed the entire point. In the midst of this, Jack Black, who had been receiving praise for his role in Minecraft and is known for his mix of appeal comedy and Hollywood savvy, allegedly approached Zgler and challenged her stance. According to sources, he questioned whether her approach to commentators, fans, and the press was doing more harm than good. The tone of the exchange is unclear. Some say it was a heated standoff, others that it was more of a firm reality check, but most accounts agree on one point: Zgler did not take it well. Reportedly, the conversation triggered a full emotional breakdown, already under immense pressure from the studio fans and the media. Zgler was said to have reached a breaking point, encouraging to see a movie that decided to do the opposite of Snow White, which is according. This narrative quickly caught fire across social platforms. Audiences already skeptical of the movie saw the story as additional evidence that something deeper was wrong. Snow White wasn't just creatively flawed, it was imploding from within.
Famously played by the insufferable girl boss narcissist who's just clinical.
The standoff, whether real or exaggerated, became a symbol of a bigger issue. The production, many say, suffered from a fundamental misalignment between message and medium. Instead of preserving the lightness of the original story, the movie was accused of shoving modern themes into its structure in a way that disrupted the pacing, tone, and spirit. Preview showings reported an uneven narrative, abrupt scene transitions, and a lack of emotional payoff. For some, the Jack Black buzz simply confirmed what they already suspected, that even within the cast and crew tensions were high and faith in the project was wavering. Disney tried to stay the course. Bob Iger, alongside Zgler, defended the movie. Openly, they insisted that audiences simply misunderstood what Disney was trying to achieve. A reinvention of a classic tale for a modern world, but fans weren't buying it. Even Disney faithfuls who had previously supported remakes like Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast began voicing concern that this wasn't just a creative shift, but a philosophical one. Snow White wasn't being refreshed, it was being rewritten, and many didn't like what they saw. More storm piled on reshoots, narrative rewrites, leaked claims that whole scenes were removed or replaced last minute. The final cut said test viewers felt like a hodgepodge of conflicting ideas. A movie trying to be everything to everyone, and in the process becoming not much of anything at all. The alleged Jack Black Zgler incident added a new emotional layer to this unraveling. The public saw it not just as gossip, but as a reflection of what happens when a studio tries to modernize a legacy IP without honoring its heart.
Encouraging to see a movie that decided to do the opposite of Snow White, which is...
In this view, Ziggler represented a generation of Hollywood stars caught between defending progressive messaging and facing legacy expectations. Black conversely symbolized the grounded voice of reason, the everyman who could call out where things went wrong. Defenders of Ziggler pushed back. They pointed out that the scrutiny placed on young women in Hollywood is often brutal and relentless. They argued that if she did break down, it was a human reaction to a crushing situation, not a failure of character. But critics continued to point to her past interviews, calling them tone-deaf, haughty, and disconnected from the fan base Disney has relied on for nearly a century. Others took issue with how dissenting voices were dismissed. Fans who raised concerns were quickly labeled as troublemakers or anti-progress. It echoed what some saw as a recurring pattern in recent Disney controversies. Ignore criticism question the motives of critics and then scramble when backlash grows too loud to silence. And yet for all the narrative swirling meltdown or not standoff or cautionary chat, the fact remains the movie itself still must stand on its own. Opening weekend numbers will be the truest test of whether this project was a misunderstood masterpiece or a misguided misfire. Some analysts think the controversy might generate short-term interest, but few believe Snow White has the staying power needed to become a lasting success. If the movie fails to perform, the aftermath could be major, not just for Zgler's career or Black's involvement, but for Disney's entire strategy. The studio's reliance on live-action remakes has become a pillar of its box office game plan. But if audiences are tiring of rehashed nostalgia without the soul, Disney will have to rethink how it handles its most treasured properties. Some industry voices already believe Snow White marks a tipping point. The backlash is no longer limited to online trolls or anti-woke rhetoric. It's coming from fans who love Disney, who grew up with these stories, and who want to see them treated with care. These are not people resistant to change, but those demanding that change be respectful, thoughtful, and rooted in the essence of what made these stories endure. The rumored meltdown has become a metaphor. Whether or not it happened, it symbolizes a movie straining under the weight of its own ambitions. A story that was meant to be light and whimsical turned into a battleground for culture expectation, and Ego, a remake that should have celebrated a legacy instead, became a cautionary tale about what happens when legacy is misunderstood. Will Disney learn from this? That remains the biggest question. If Snow White flops, it could trigger a major shift in how the studio approaches its live-action slate. If it manages to find an audience, some may still argue that the damage is already done, that faith in the studio's storytelling instinct has been cracked. For Zgler, the months ahead will be pivotal. Can she pivot from storm back to credibility? Will she address the rumors or let the internet continue shaping the narrative? Will Jack Black ever speak on what did or didn't happen? And for Disney, the stakes are even greater. Snow White was supposed to be a sure thing, a familiar face, a safe bet. Instead, it's become the most hotly debated, dissected, and polarizing remake in recent memory. Actually, let me tell you something important. This story has created a huge stir online. People are talking. Sources close to the production say there's so much more than meets the eye. And guess what? You can join the conversation right now. Share this piece, leave a comment, and pass it along to your friends. If you want more updates, stick around for future articles. They're saying the drama isn't over yet, and I have it on good authority that the twists will keep coming. Let's go!